My name is Moon Petrie, and this is a revision vlog. Again, I am revising the book called Glow. It is my middle grade queer contemporary fandom book, and it is the 3rd of September. I started the first read through yesterday and I finished it today. It is only about 52,000 words, so it wasn't a very long read, but I did find it compelling, which helped me get through it, and which is a reassuring sign. I think it will take some work to get it into a condition where it will be going to its first beta readers, but I think that the work will be worth it. I think that this is it's very salvageable, so I'm getting excited about it again. And what I did was just read, almost, asterisk. So I did address a few tiny things. There's one character whose surname I forgot immediately after assigning it in the beginning, and I never went back and checked. And so I kept just using brackets surname. And so I made note of it at the outset while I was reading, because I knew it was a thing I needed to correct, and as I went I just filled those in. Most of the brackets I did not actually address. A lot of them are in the epigraphs, and I'm gonna need to do a lot of work on the epigraphs. So those are taken from the book series that my main character is obsessed with, so fictional epigraphs. And I'm gonna need to do a little rearranging where I wrote a really great epigraph for a scene I knew was coming up, and I used it as a chapter heading, and then the scene didn't quite come up yet, and so I should put that at the start of the next chapter where the scene actually happened, and fill in some of them I definitely just left blank. So that whole thing, that's one of the items on my list. So a lot of this is just little things that I needed to make note of as I went. Somebody's surname that I thought I might lose track of later on, or need jotted down, or things like a granny and a grandma are both referenced, and it isn't made clear which parent they belong to, or if they're actually just the same person and I accidentally referred to them in different ways. You know, little things like that are going to be no problem to deal with. There's a school board meeting in this. The club, Glow, gay, lesbian, or whatever, is getting shut down, and the kids are going to the school board to address it. And there's an inconsistency about how many members there will be at the school board. There are a couple of things that are bigger. So one is the epigraphs in general. Some need to be rearranged. Some chapters don't have one, especially toward the end. Not the actual end. I have good epigraphs right at the end, but before the last two chapters, sort of that third quarter of the book or so, I got a little off. I had an extra long chapter that I realized at the end should maybe have been broken up. Wasn't sure where to break it, or, you know, if the start of the next scene should be part, you know, and I didn't address it. And then after that, wherever I felt there should be a chapter break, I just put chapter number instead of actually numbering it. So I need to fix that, but I'm not too worried about that, having just gone through that process with undoing. There's a little bit of timeline stuff where it feels too abrupt or isn't clear how much time is passing, so there might need to be some bridges, some stuff filled in a little bit, and just in general a little more clarity as we go about what the day is or how many days have passed. This does take place over like 2 to 3 weeks. I think it's closer to 3 weeks. And so, again, a fairly short timeline, but not 5 days like I'm doing. So I'm just wanting to be aware of that as I go. So most of the things seem totally manageable, at least if I might not be able to make them fantastic on this first pass without any feedback yet, I can definitely make them better, make them smaller problems for future Moon. It's the 9th of September and I wanted to film a little update. I got a ton done yesterday. I was all excited to get a lot more done today. Baby did not really nap, so I am psyched though with the progress that I have made on Glow. I did a whole bunch of little things, straightening out continuity issues with which grandparent is called what thing, or whether someone was there when something was discussed before and doesn't need the refresher when somebody mentions it later. My main character is obsessed with this series of books, and I had a bunch of titles, but I didn't have a complete title for one of them, and I hadn't figured out what order they went in. So I figured that out. I filled in my running timeline so that this happens a lot when I'm drafting. I keep a running timeline as I go so I can tell how long it's been or whatever. And then I get really excited toward the end of drafting and forget to keep filling it in. I did the thing where I checked the word count for all of the chapters. I broke up my super long chapter, leaving space in one of the 3 chapters it became for an additional scene that I knew I would need. I combined some of the chapters and then renumbered everything, figured out where the epigraphs didn't quite fit the chapter that I had put them to, moved some around, and filled in a whole bunch of new epigraphs, which I was missing like 8 chapters epigraphs or something like that. So I wrote a whole bunch of those last night. I caught a couple of other inconsistencies as I was working on other things and fixed them. I spent what time I had today working on formatting of some conversations that were held via text with justification. So some are left justified and some are right justified, so that you can see who's speaking, just like when you're actually texting, and highlighting them in slightly different shades of gray. And I realized that with my timeline stuff, I had this meeting at the end, a school board meeting that is a really important event. And I hadn't been clear when I was drafting on exactly how long it would be before it happened, and then just sort of boom, it happened. So I was going back through and making it clear that the character is aware of how long it's going to be until this meeting and developing a sense of urgency about the time passing before this thing is going to happen. So I've done a ton of work on it, and the main thing left to, and I did fill in that little scene that I left space for. The main thing left to do right now is the ending. The ending feels a little abrupt, and there's stuff with at least one other character that doesn't feel like it got tied up for my protagonist. And so I'm gonna work on the ending. That's the next plan. After that, maybe a few days off and then a read through. It is done. At least it is as done as I can make it without any feedback. So I went through the steps that I said I was going to. I added a bridging scene before the suddenly occurring school board meeting. I added a little wrap up, follow up with some things that felt unresolved at the end. So yeah, there was some adding. I went through and I did look for suddenly, which is one of my worst crutch words. There were only 13. Every book I have fewer instances of suddenly. So yeah, the more books you write, the better they get, apparently. With certain things that you have realized you are doing wrong, at least. My main character is intentionally indecisive throughout a bunch of the book. But as I was reading, I was suddenly aware, of how many times I used the word maybe, and it was 121 when I checked. So I went through and I hacked those maybes down to just 56. A lot of them were not at all necessary. And since I was suddenly aware of some extra words that didn't need to be in there, I decided to do just a trimming pass for unnecessary little words like then or of course or I thought, you know. So I had originally had the manuscript when I first finished drafting at 51,999 words, and I had added, as I said, a bunch of epigraphs, a couple of small scenes, and so it had gotten a lot bigger. Not a lot really, but closer to 54 maybe, 53 something, and I just did a cutting pass, and I didn't cut anything of significant substance, but I cut a lot of just unnecessary words, and I got it down to 50,830 words, and there it is. So I am between projects. I am not sure what I'm working on for Nano. I finished this revision a little before I expected to, and I don't like having nothing to do. It's a little weird. I'm even considering going back to my problem child, which was my April 2019 Camp Nano project that I don't know how to revise. It's such a great concept, but it's been... I don't know what to do with it. I've even been turning that over in my mind, so being between projects is not comfy for me. I am trying to just sit with it a little, and also I am planning on doing daily videos for Preptober, so I should really be working on that. That is what I should be focused on. At any rate, I am proud of it. It requires feedback and will take more revision, but it's worth it. It'll be worth it. It's gonna be good. So thank you for following along on this journey that started this year's April camp. And until next time, if you have any suggestions for me, what you do when you're between projects, I would love to know.